It's our turn, episode number 36, Summer Vacation Games. In this episode, Sarah, Jessica, and I talk about games to play during summer vacations. Frank tells us about Race for the Galaxy, and I interview the authors of a book encouraging girls to stay in STEM courses.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per episode or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. We'd like to send a shout out to our new supporter, Matt. Every dollar helps to keep this show going strong. Thank you, Matt. Welcome back to Our Turn Women on Gaming. I'm Cathy.
And I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jessica.
Hey, ladies. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Before we dive into what we've been playing lately, I owe Sarah a public apology.
Oh.
Uh-oh, what happened?
A few episodes ago, when we were talking about our board game challenges, I gave Sarah a hard time about how many unplayed games she had.
Right.
Well, recently I went through and did an inventory of all of my games. I pulled out every game in the house, put it on the dining room table, sorted it into have played a lot, haven't played hardly at all, or not at all. And it turns out I have 83 unplayed games.
Ha!
Wow.
Just goes to show out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. So my apologies for giving you such a hard ribbing, Sarah.
It's still a lot of games. I mean, you and I both, I get to see them every day, so I'm reminded, I need to play those 60 games. It's been in a closet or whatnot, and when it's spread out all over the house, just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So now all of our games we've played a lot, and we know those games pretty well. They're in the game closet, and it's still pretty full. But then all of the unplayed games are on a credenza in our dining room, and they're stacked all the way up. So I have a picture of the Firefly crew hanging on my wall, and it is currently covered by games. So my first goal is to get Mal and the crew uncovered.
Good luck.
So we've started just playing games from that pile, and we've made some good progress. We've gotten 5 or 6 of them played. So,
nice.
But I wanted to give you a public apology. So,
well, thank you, Cathy. Apology accepted.
So, Sarah, what have you been playing lately?
Well, on that topic, we were able to get a couple of our unplayed games to the table, and one of them was Dream Home, actually a recent acquisition, thanks to having a couple extra points on the Amazon credit card, and Amazon being cheap, it's hard to argue. So we'd been curious about it, and so we picked it up. And Dream Home is designed by Clemens Kaliki, published by Asmodee in 2016, so just last year. It plays 2 to 4 players in about 20 to 40 minutes. So Dream Home is a family-level game about building and furnishing your new home. Over 12 rounds, players will collect pairs of cards consisting of a room card and then an accessory card. And accessory cards can be a roof, helpers, furnishings, or tools. Things you need to build a house. And then you're going to place the room card and these other accessory cards on your personal board as you acquire them, thus creating your dream home. And at the end of the game, all the players' houses are finished and fully furnished, and players compare their houses, count points for functionality, good design, the quality of your roof, and furnishings, and the player with the nicest and most comfortable house wins. This is a very nice, light game of card drafting, set collection, and a little bit of memory thrown in there. It feels a lot like Sushi Go with a spatial aspect. You're drafting cards from an open-face board rather than hands. But you're collecting sets, like bedrooms can have 2 cards in them for more points. You only have 1 card for a bedroom. It's not going to be worth as much as 2 cards. And then a sauna gives you more points if it's right next to a bathroom. But you have to place these cards adjacent to each other on the board, so that's the spatial aspect. And you also have the challenge of building your house from the ground up. No putting a bedroom on the second floor if you don't have a first floor built. And then lastly, memory aspect is small. That's the roof cards. You'll collect them and they're going to be in different colors. As you collect them, they go face down on your board and you can't look at them until you get to build your roof at the end of the game. And the whole point is if you can build a roof of all one color, you get extra points. So if you can remember what colors you've gotten, you may be able to score more points. But in the 2 games I've played, it's been near impossible to get 4 roof cards of the same color. So if anybody's worried about the memory aspect, don't worry about it in this game. I don't like memory games, and this didn't bother me at all. But I will say I thought there'd be a bit more to it. I'm really not sure exactly what I was expecting. I mean, the game's rated age 7 and up, but it's cute, it's light, it's fun, it's short. So we're going to keep it in our collection. It'll be a good one to teach to people, as the next step after Sushi Go. And I give it a solid 4 out of 5. Not something I'll always want to play, but if asked, I'd probably play it.
It sounds a little bit like a more complicated version of Best Treehouse Ever.
Probably. I have not actually had the opportunity to play that one, but from what I remember seeing of it, yeah, you've got a spatial aspect of placing your cards in certain places, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the first time you place a colored room in your treehouse, you can place it anywhere on your treehouse that will support it. But the next time you place a room of the same color, it has to be touching a room of the same color. And it's sort of set collection. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is in that same vein. Although with this one, it also is restricted. So like a bedroom can only have 2 cards. So if you get a 3rd bedroom card, it cannot touch the other 2 bedroom cards. So there's some legal play there of what can and can't be next to each other. So yeah, it's very similar in the same vein, and I think it's really great. I hear a lot of people play it with their kids, and I think that would definitely be a good one. I also think I've got some casual friends who are just getting into games, and this is going to be a good one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you say what you rated it?
Yes, it is a 4 out of 5.
Awesome. All right.
Yep.
Jessica, what have you been doing?
Well, I got in one measly day of gaming, which is very sad. In the last 2 weeks, it's been very sad, but I'm glad I at least got some games in. My friend, she lives with 2 of our best friends, and they were gone with their kids, and she's an extrovert and hates to be alone, and so she came over to my house. She was like, there's too many creaky noises in the house. I'm going to come over, we'll hang out, watch movies, and play games. So we got to play a couple games together. So since it was just us 2, the first game we decided to play was Patchwork, which is a great 2-player game. It's designed by Uwe Rosenberg and published by Mayfair Games, and it came out in 2014. And this is a very Tetris-like game. There are different pieces of like quilting material, and you're trying to make your patchwork quilts. And so it's a tile-laying game and very spatially oriented. The main focus of the game is trying to completely make your quilts, but also collect the most buttons. What's cool about the game is very the same every game, except because of the way you orient the pieces in the circle and how you can only choose from the first 3 tiles that are next to a marker. It can change how your quilt gets built every time, which I like a lot about the game. But it's always a battle between choosing a big piece that's going to take up a lot of space on your quilt that doesn't have any buttons versus a small piece, but it has 1 or 2 buttons, which are how you get points at the end of the game. But you also don't want to leave any empty spaces on your quilt because they're worth -2 points at the end of the game. So it's always this constant battle, and then looking ahead and seeing what's going to be available to the next person because you're trying to steal buttons from them. And then also looking at the position on the time track because I love the time track, like from Thebes and games like Patchwork, where whoever is last goes first, and then the piece of quilt that you purchase tells you how much time you have to go forward on the time tracker. And so there are positions where if you go past a button on the time tracker, then you actually get income from the buttons that are on your quilt. And then there are also single piece little patches on the time tracker that you're most of the time trying to get before somebody else too. So there's so many different aspects that you're battling, and it makes the choices really interesting and like heart-wrenching. Sometimes you're sitting there looking at this really simple game and you're not sure like what to do because you don't want to leave this awesome piece for somebody else to get, but it's so expensive, it's going to take all your buttons to purchase it, and just it's such a simple game. And it's really cool that, from what I heard, I'm not positive, but Uwe put out this game to see how the tiling aspect would work because it was going to be an aspect of A Feast for Odin, which contains this kind of tile-laying Tetris-y kind of method, but then includes a bunch of other stuff. And it does work, I think, for a great, just simple 2-player game. So hadn't played Patrick in a long time, and I think it's really beautiful. Like the tile, I mean, your quilt ends up looking crazy because the patchwork pieces are all different colors and shapes and all crazy looking, but because of the colors and stuff, it's just a lot of fun, and I rate this game a 4 out of 5.
Fantastic. This is one I've been meaning to try. My mom is a quilter. And
oh, you haven't played this yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, you have to play it. So good.
I will put it a little higher on the list.
Yeah, I totally agree. I haven't played the physical version because, again, it would be too much for Will's vision. But once the app was released, it was the end of last year, I think, or something. The app is fantastic. So if you want to dip your toes in it, Cathy, I highly recommend the app. The really cool part about the app is I think it's just a little bit of, like a couple dollars, you can get themes. And it actually changes the textures on the quilt pieces. And if you play somebody online, it mixes their quilt pieces with your quilt pieces in terms of theme. So like, let's say if you get like the cat theme and they have the space theme, then they get jumbled together and now you've got pieces on
Cats in space.
Yeah, you've got cats in space. It's so cute.
I did not know that feature. I downloaded the game and then I had to delete it because it distracted me way too much.
Yeah.
You're like waiting for notifications and...
I'm having that problem with Potion Explosion right now.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, and I recently got Race for the Galaxy on the app, and yeah, I've been playing that a lot too. So yes, apps are great until they distract you from what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Mark and I went over to our friends Dwayne and Yuriko's house the other day. Hi, Dwayne and Yuriko. And Dwayne actually had found a copy of Zularetto at, I think he said Half Price Books.
Nice.
And it was like $22.
Cool.
Which I guess it's going for a lot more than that right now.
Yeah, I believe it's out of print, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
So Zularetto is designed by Michael Schacht and published by Rio Grande Games. And it was published in 2007. And I've seen this game on the shelf since I started gaming, but apparently it's out of print now. And basically, you're all trying to stock your own zoo. And you have so many different pens. It's like, I think there are 4, and you can add a 5th if you want to pay for it. Draw these tiles out of a bag and you put them on these little trucks. You're doing kind of a blind pull of them and you put them on these trucks. And some of them are concession stands and some of them are animals. There's like elephants and camels and zebras and monkeys and pandas and leopards. Now, most of the animal tiles are just one animal on each tile, or they're all one animal on each tile, but some of them, 4 of each animal, are labeled either male or female. And if you put a male and a female in a pen together, you automatically get a baby. Mm-hmm. And there are these little round discs that have the babies on them. It's very cute. So we were playing this, and yeah, I lost really badly.
It is hard to balance.
It is, but it was very cute. I was wishing it wasn't out of print because it's one that I think I would like to add to my collection for playing with my young friend Thomas or playing with some of my non-gamer family. I think this would be one that would be a lot of fun to play with them. Dwayne also had an expansion for Zularetto, but because it was the first time any of us had played this game, we opted for not including the expansions. But basically, there are these 4 truck pieces that you're putting these little animals and concession stands and stuff on, and then they each take 3 tiles, or 4, might be 4 tiles. Anyway, when a truck gets full enough with something that you want for your zoo, then you take it and you're out of drawing tiles for putting on the trucks. But you get everything that's on there. And you place them in your zoo. You can pay for upgrades. And then also any animals that you don't have a pen for, they go in your barn. And those are negative points at the end of the game. I had a lot of animals in my barn. I was trying to collect, I think, elephants and lions and flamingos, and I can't remember what else, but I had like monkeys, and then I had too many elephants, so some of my elephants had to go in the barn. I need to play it again.
Yeah.
But we had a good time with it, and I would definitely give it a 4 on our rating scale. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I played it a long time ago. It didn't really click with me. And Will wasn't that crazy over it either. So we actually ended up trading it away. But that was probably 4 years ago. So it was still in print, but then I don't know what's going on with Rio Grande, but they're letting a lot of stuff out, like, go out of stock and out of print. I don't know what they're going through changes. Anyways, I assume somebody's going to pick it up. Give it a couple years maybe, but that's a hot seller.
Yeah, that was a complaint that Dwayne had about Rio Grande in particular, that they just let a lot of stuff go out of print.
Yes.
Even though it might be a popular mainstay type game, they just let it go out of print.
Yeah, I've heard they're having management changes. They don't want to be an import brand anymore. They want to do their own original stuff. Unfortunately, they started off as an import brand, and that's what they're known for. So, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Okay. So what's up next for you, Sarah?
Oh, yes. Our other unplayed game, which normally we would play 2 games, but I couldn't stomach even one play of this game.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Infernal Contraptions is as infernally stupid as it sounds.
Oh, no.
I don't normally like doing negative reviews, but every now and then you just kind of need to get through it so that hopefully other people won't get this game. So, Infernal Contraptions was designed by Matt Wilson, published by Privateer Press in 2007. Supposedly plays 2 to 4 players, but I didn't like it at 2. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's supposed to play about 60 minutes, which also overstays its welcome. So yes, this is infernally stupid and badly, badly designed. Not even 2 rounds into the game, I turned to Will and I'm like, this is like that first card game you and I tried to design and realized that it wasn't worth the effort and put it back on the shelf. But evidently, these people went through with it and it got published. So here's why we got it. The concept is intriguing. The idea is you're building a crazy magical machine that negatively affects other players and helps you. I mean, it's just supposed to be all sorts of just negative player interaction and a race to see whose machine can last the longest. So there's a deck of cards, and this is the first part where I knew something was going to go wrong. You take the whole deck and you split it evenly among players. That's your life, so to speak. It's a pile of parts, and if you run out of parts, you're eliminated. So this is also why I'm not sure I'd ever even want to play it with 3 or 4 players, because if you're eliminated and there's still 3 players in the game, very few games do player elimination very well. But that's it. Whoever still has parts in their pile is the winner. But what you're trying to do is play cards from your hand, which you draw from your stack, and you are adding them to this crazy contraption. It's really hard to explain because the rules are really loose and badly written, and the card text is pretty bad. So it's kind of fun to run your contraption. So you're adding stuff, and then you go through and run your contraption, which is resolving the cards from left to right, top to bottom on your machine, going through them. But because the rules are so loose, you're not really sure if you did that in the right order or if this card affected that card. And so the first few times, that's kind of fun. The 4th or 5th, you're just ready for the whole thing to just be over. If you ever run across this game, play something else. Just do it. Now, if you really want to see how it plays, just go watch a video. It'll waste less of your time. In fact, I've wasted too much already on the explanation of this. So I give this a 1. Not quite a 0. I think I might actually give it a 0, except it was kind of fun to run the contraption the first few times. So it gets a meager 1 out of me. That's it.
Oh, we don't get those very often. Give me back the time I spent playing it.
Now I really want to play it. I want to see why it's so... I'm a really bad judge of bad games. Like, I pretty much just tend to have fun regardless. So I'm kind of curious to see if I would actually just like it. Anyways,
it's very likely there are people who just find this crazy fun, and as long as you are as loose with the rules as they are, I think you can have fun. It's worse than... I'm not saying Flux and Munchkin are bad games. It's just they do tend to overstay their welcome for the game experience that they provide, but they can still have fun with them because their rules are better written about it. It needed a lot more play testing than what they did for it. Well, if you ever come back to Sacramento and I still have this, I will hand it over to you.
Okay.
Wow, we don't get ones very often, but,
Every
Better to warn others right up front.
yeah. Every now and then you just gotta, unfortunately.
Yep. All right, Jessica, how about you?
All right, so I also played a card game, and this game is really cool because, so the friend that came over to game that one night, she is obsessed with pirates. She's convinced she was born in the wrong era and she should have been a pirate. So I try to gift her just pirate stuff. It's kind of easy to, look for stuff and give her as gifts. And so for Christmas, 2 years ago, it was actually really cool. I kickstarted the casual game magazine. I can't remember what it was. Casual Game Insider. And flipping through it, I came across a review of a trick-taking game. And it was pirate-themed. And so I was like, it's a little card game. It's cheap. And she was new to gaming. And they had kind of rated it as a casual game. So I purchased it and gave it to her for Christmas. She took it home when she visited her family in Pennsylvania. And when she came back, she said, this game is great. We had so much fun with my family. We played it constantly. And so then I played it for the first time, and it's one of my favorite games. And this is called Skull King, and it's designed by Brent Beck and April Stott. It's published by Grandpa Beck's Games, and it was published in 2013. And it's a trick-taking game. And it's kind of a reimplementation or variation on Oh Hell, where you are bidding on how many tricks you're going to win, and you only really earn points if you exactly match your bid. And so in this game, there are 10 rounds, and each round, each player is dealt the number of cards equal to the round number. So for round 1, everybody just gets 1 card. And then you say, yo, ho, ho. And on the third ho, you stick out how many fingers, how many bids you think you're going to win, 0 or on the first round 1. And then whoever dealt, the person to their left is the first player. And so you kind of take into account who's the first player and what card they might possibly play to do your bids. And so what's cool is that every round, if you bid 0 and you actually win 0 tricks, then you get 10 points times the round number. So if you bid 0 in round 10, you'll earn 100 points in round 10.
Wow.
But that's a gamble because there are 10 tricks you have to get through, depending on player count, because this game can play up to 6 people. But I've had people do that. And what I love about this game is that you'll have 50 points in round 7, but then you bid 0 and you get 1 trick, and so you get negative 70 points. And so now you're in the negatives, and I love how swingy the game gets that way because I'm horrible at bidding. I'm not a very good gauge. I can't think probabilities and stuff in my head. And so thinking about what cards are left in the deck and what cards are actually in people's hands and wondering, depending on what cards I have, if they're going to be able to beat theirs to win tricks or they're going to be low enough to be able to lose tricks and not get any and stuff. I can't do that. So I just look at my cards and just go like, oh, well, I'll throw out 3 fingers this time or something. What's cool is that it's so different at different player counts. I've played it at the full 6-player count, which is really fun and cutthroat. 2 players is really fun. It's a little bit easier at the beginning of the game because you just have, like, round 1, you just have 1 card. And there's 4 different suits, like 4 different colors of cards. And then there are trump cards in the deck. There are several pirate cards, which beat out anything. One of the colors of the cards or suits is black, and that beats out any other color. But then the pirates beat those, and then there's one Skull King card that beats everything, unless a mermaid card is played in that deck, and then the mermaid beats the Skull King. So really thinking about what cards you have and what cards other players have affects how you're going to bid. My favorite part of the game, really, though, is seeing how swingy the points get, where you'll be in the positives, and then you'll be in the negative, and I've been negative 50, negative 80 before, and it's still fun even though I stink at that. So ever since we played it, it's been one of my favorite games and helped me to realize that I love trick taking. It's just such a simple mechanic. Just beat the highest card there and you'll win it. And if you can work it in this game to win as few bids as possible later in the game, you can earn a lot of points. So if you bid 0 and actually can complete that. So I love this game. It's just simple, and the art, it's cool because there are 2 different versions of this game. There's one that's a little more cartoony art, which is the one I purchased after 6 months of finally playing this game and realizing I needed my own copy. But she has the one that's a little bit more, it looks a little bit more like photographs, even though it's still drawing and art. But I like the cartoony one a little bit better, and that's the one I have. And the rules are slightly different between the 2. I think my deck also has a Scary Mary card, which is, there's a similar card in both decks where You can play it as a pirate, which would beat tricks. And you can also play it as an escape card, which would be zeros, basically like a zero, because there are also escape cards in the deck too. So, but her version of the game doesn't have the mermaid, which can beat the Skull King. In her version, the Skull King just beats everything. So, but if you like trick taking, if you like bidding and seeing how horrible people bid, and it's seeing somebody bid zero and you just want to screw them over and make them win one just so they'll lose all those points, it's such a fun game. And for me, it's a 5.
Neat. Have you played any of the other games that Grandpa Bex publishes?
No, I haven't.
Okay. We have one that we won at Board Game Blitz Con when we went there. It's called Nuts About Mutts. And we haven't been able to play it yet because it's a 3-player game.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to trying that out. It's kind of a speed game from what I can tell from the rules.
Oh.
But I was just wondering how Grandpa Bex is as a game publisher in general.
Yeah, I don't know anything other than this game, and which I love.
Okay. All right. My last game, I actually won from Origins, and I didn't even go.
Yay!
Punchboard Media, which is a new network for gaming podcasts, had a big meetup at Origins, and I happened to see that they were doing a contest on Twitter. And so I entered the contest and was surprised I won. So we got to choose from a list of games, and they sent it, and I picked Tides of Madness, which is designed by Christian Kurla and published by Portal Games in 2016. And this is a card game. It's got a small deck of cards.
Is it like 16 or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's like 16 or 18 cards. It's a Cthulhu-themed game, as most games are that talk about madness. And you are trying to learn things without going mad. So it's a card drafting set collection game. And it's also a filler game. It's very quick. You get 5 cards at the beginning of the game, and then you pick one to lay on the table. And that's your starting card that you're putting into your tableau. And then you draft your hands back and forth. So you pick one and put it on the table, and then you exchange hands of cards and pick one and put it on the table. And you're trying to collect sets based on the cards that you're placing. There are 5 suits in the deck. Each card has something that you gain points for across the top of it. Now, what's unusual about these cards, and I would really like to talk to you and Michael Heron, Sarah, about these and how they are accessible. They're done in the landscape orientation, and they're 4x3-inch cards, so they're bigger than standard cards.
Uh-oh.
The artwork is beautiful.
Oh, no.
They went all out on this artwork. It is gorgeous. And in fact, when you hear my rating, it got bumped up as high as it did because of the artwork. I would seriously consider framing these.
That's nice.
Putting them in a mat and framing them because the artwork is just beautiful. It's beautiful Cthulhu-themed artwork. We played the game. It's okay. I mean, it's an okay filler game. It's not something I'm probably going to end up keeping unless I take it to Michael's and get it framed because the artwork is just lovely. Anyway, you draft these cards back and forth until you're out of cards, and then you score. Some of the cards have tentacles on the left-hand side, kind of creeping out at you. And if you have any of those in your tableau, you get a madness token for each one of those. If you get 9 madness tokens, you're out of the game because you went crazy. It was funny, though, because there's one card that gives you a point for every madness token you have. We played this game twice, and I got it twice. I used it to best effect. I had the most madness tokens, so I hung on to that card as much as I could. Anyway, you play through 3 hands, and basically, once you've scored a hand, you pick a card to keep and start on the table, and then you pick a card to put away in the box. It's out of the game. You deal so your hand is up to 5 again because you've got 3 cards that you can put back in your hand, and then you start drafting back and forth again, and you do this 3 times. And then whoever has the highest number of points at the end of the game wins. They said if there's a tie, then you just have a shared victory. And Mark and I are like, come on. One of the obvious things is who has the least madness tokens. That should be the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was okay. I don't know that it would interest anybody who's not a gamer. It'd be an okay light little filler game. It's a 2-player only game. It'd be a nice light little filler game after a big heavy game when you're waiting for another game to open kind of thing. But like I said, the artwork is just gorgeous. Anyway, that is Tides of Madness from Portal Games, and I give it a rating of a 3. And really the thing that pushed it up to 3 was the artwork.
Yeah, I've played the original Tides of Time. Which was, made before this one, and then they made a Cthulhu-themed version. And I played it a few times, and I played it like one more time, and then I gave it away to my friend. Because I hate drafting. I hate it. I'm just so terrible at it. And that game is just so much all about drafting.
It is.
And I'm so terrible at it. It just made me feel sad every time I played it. So I was like, I have a friend. It's the same friend, actually, the pirate freak. She loves drafting, and so I gave it to her so that she could play it with some of her friends.
Yeah, if that's not a mechanism you enjoy, then you're not going to enjoy this game
Yeah.
at all. So anyway, that's what we've been playing. You've heard us referring to and rating games by a rating scale. Here's how we're using this scale. 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. 2. Has great potential as kindling. 3. Decent with some bugs. 4. A good, solid game. And 5. Buy this now.
Building an empire to stand the test of time, a phrase that had been used in games for many years, both board and computer. I remember hearing it as far back as the original Civilization computer game from Microprose. While there have been many games that are focused on empire building, one has been a solo favorite of mine for years, and that would be Race for the Galaxy, designed by Thomas Lehman, with art by Martin Hoffman, Klaus Stefan, and Mirko Suzuki, and currently rated at number 45 over Board Game Geek. Now, and please note that if you're going to play this solo, you will at least need the expansion called The Gathering Storm, because it has the solo rules. Now, in Race for the Galaxy, your goal is to gain the most victory points by either playing cards into your tableau or by earning victory point counters. Now, there are two different types of cards that can be played into your tableau. Developments, which are designated by a diamond in the upper left-hand corner, and planets that have a circle. Some planets have a red outline effect, and you need to use a military strength to take those over. Planets that produce goods are given a color that shows what type of good that planet produces, or gray if it doesn't produce any. Or they may have a colored halo, which are called windfall worlds, which start with a good in play, but only produce when you choose the production option. But I'll explain that in a moment. Now, you add cards to your tableau by discarding a number of cards equal to that number shown in either the diamond or circle, or by already having a military strength in your tableau equal to or greater than that number in red. You can earn the victory point counters by selling in goods the planets produce. Now, when you play this either solo or with two players, each round you'll choose two phases in which you will gain a benefit for acting in. Now, you will still get an action in every phase that is chosen by yourself, other players when playing multiplayer, or the AI when playing solo, but you get a bonus to that action if you choose it. It sort of reminds me of the advantage that the governor gets in Puerto Rico. You still get an action in the phases you didn't choose, but the one that you did choose, your action is better. Now, the phases in each round are Explore, where you add more cards to your hand, Develop, where you play one of the development cards, those are the cards with the diamonds that I mentioned. Settle, discarding cards or having enough military strength to place one of the circle cards in play, those are planets. Trade, where you discard a good from your tableau for more cards, and then using special consume powers from other goods that are already in your tableau. Or Produce, which is how you add goods to the worlds for later trading. Now, also, each card in this game could have a special power or effect that can happen in one phase or multiple phases. The powers that are shown use a very unique set of iconography. Now, it's so varied that some of my gaming friends call this game Race for the Confusing Symbols. There are over a dozen different icons that are used on the over 200 cards that come with the base game, and each expansion adds more cards, more mechanics, and more icons. Luckily, there's a very good player's aid that explains what each icon does, but it's still a definite learning curve to understand not only what the cards do, but how they can be best used in combination with other cards and score a lot of points. Now, at the start of the solo game, you'll choose a homeworld from a collection of special cards, and then draw 6 cards for your starting hand, discarding 2. This forms your initial empire in hand. Next, you'll randomly choose a home world for the AI and seed its hand, which acts more like a special mini deck for the AI player. Now, when you're playing solo, you'll also use a special game board for controlling the actions that the AI player has. And it has on it different areas that describes what to do for the AI when that action comes up. For example, if the option to colonize is available, you would add a few cards to the AI deck and then pull cards from that deck until you find a planet it is able to legally colonize. If you run out of cards, then the AI doesn't get to complete that action. If, let's say, the trade action is chosen, it may get to increase its level of economic development, which may grant it the ability to place a free 6 value development during another action, or it may get to earn some victory point counters, add more cards to its deck, making it able to colonize the world to place the development at a later time. Now, each home world has a special overlay to that game board that changes the base actions to one that would be more appropriate to a player that would be playing that world. For example, if your home world starts off with military, then you would gain a conquest option and some military strength instead of a settle option. And it would be more focused on acquiring more military worlds than is to below as compared to regular ones. Now, after you've chosen your actions, you'll place your choices on the game board using some chits. Then, you'll roll 2 special AI dice that have faces that match each action and assign them to the appropriate spots that match the face. Then, working from left to right, phase 1 to phase 5, you'll do each action in order. If you chose the action and not the AI, after you complete your turn, you would do the lower portion of that section for the AI player. In a sense, it's the lesser action had they not chosen it. If the AI chose it, you would then do the upper portion of the action, which may make it use less cards to complete an action or can get a better outcome. Play will then continue each round until either you or the AI places its 12th card into its tableau. After that, you count up the number of chits and combine that with the victory points on each card in your tableau, which are shown in a hex next to that cost. You'll also need to compute the real point value of the 6-point developments. Most of those have combinations that can be worth a lot of points if you have the corresponding cards in play. Very recently, a mobile app was created by Temple Gates Games. Now, you can play the regular multiplayer game with either network multiplayer or against up to 3 other AI opponents of 3 different levels of skill. The nice thing about the app is that it explains what each icon means, so it's an easy way to learn the game. The app plays very well, and the differing skill levels gives you a chance to tailor your experience. Being able to tap on a card and get a blown-up image with a good description of what each icon means is a huge help. Kudos to Temple Gates Games for adding that to the app. Now, on the Our Turn podcast scale, I would give the physical game a very solid 4. Being a card game with over 200 cards, there is a luck factor, and learning the iconography and how each of the cards interact with the others will take several plays to learn. Also, using the dice for the AI's actions and some of the rules modifications to make it work solo takes away a little from the learning experience and the gaming experience as well. You still must follow all the regular rules as a human player, but the AI gets breaks to make it a challenge. Now, I would give the app a 4.5 because it makes learning the game and iconography much easier, and it gives the experience of playing real multiplayer, which to me is a better way to play Race than the included solo version. To me, Race really shines as a multiplayer experience, and you can get that with the app. Now, next time, we'll leave outer space behind for the more sedate English countryside of the Lakeland District as I review a game that has recently come out of Kickstarter, Backpacks and Blisters by Steve and Phil Kendall and Gary Dicken. Now, if you have any questions or comments, I can be reached in several ways. I'm on Twitter at the handle Talesian. That's T-A-L-I, S as in Sam, E-I-A-N. I also have an Instagram feed of the same name where I post pictures of the games that I'm working on. I also occasionally post in the Our Turn podcast guild page over Board Game Geek, and that would be guild number 2600. And I also occasionally post in the Solitaire Games on Your Table monthly threads there as well. And remember, even if you're all alone, it doesn't mean you can't get your game on.
Hey everyone, this is Sarah. If you're curious on how you can support the show, here are some ideas. If you'd like to support us financially, you can support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. We also have a donation button on the site for anyone wanting to do a one-time donation. We have a lot of plans to improve our audio quality and expand the content we provide, but we need help to do so. However, we totally understand that not everyone has the funds to support us. Thankfully, there are many non-monetary and important ways to help us. First, tell a friend about the show. Really, one of the best ways to support us is to spread the word to people you know. Commenting on our posts, either on the website, Facebook, Twitter, or the Board Game Geek Guild, are very helpful for us to know what listeners think and want from our show. If you think of anyone you'd like us to interview, please let us know. We'd also appreciate any shares of our posts on social media. Take pictures of you playing games and post them to any of our social media venues. We'd love to know what you're playing and maybe take a look at playing those games too. Please call our voicemail number. It's 916-426-2873 and leave a message or a show intro or promo. For example, you could say, "This is Sarah and it's our turn." Or, "This is Sarah and you're listening to Our Turn Women on Gaming." Of course, replace Sarah with your name. So there are many ways to support us, and we appreciate any and all of them. Thanks for listening.
So now we're getting into the heart of the show, and our topic today is summer vacation games. And the idea behind this topic is lazy days of summer, or you're on vacation in the summer. What games do you pull out and play? Either by the poolside, or what games do you take with you on vacation when you're going to go visit friends or family? Or you're going on a road trip and you want something to play in the evenings when you're at the hotel or in the campground, anything like that. Or if you're a person that hibernates in the summer, what keeps you inside and playing games? Any of those things is fine. Everybody enjoys different things in the summer. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What is one of your favorite summer games and why?
Well, I am definitely one of those stay inside where it's air conditioned person. I don't like the heat. I don't like going outside. I don't like swimming. Yeah, I'm not an outdoorsy person whatsoever. So for me, I mean, typically I'll play whatever game I want to play. But if you thinking about it and picking stuff that might inspire or make me think of water and trips and travel, I thought, Port Royal is a pretty good one there thematically. It's, ports and shipping, and it's also a nice, light, fun game. So we've had a good luck with this game, teaching it to casual friends, and it's short, which is always good if you just want to play one game. If you want to play several games, we've had that too, or play 2 or 3 times in a row because everybody's like, "Oh, I should have gotten that one. I was so close." So, you set it up again. Just briefly, Port Royal, designed by Alexander Pfister, published by Pegasus Spiel in 2014. I believe last time I talked about it, I gave it a 4.5. If not, I still feel strongly it's a good game. It's a push your luck. I like that it's a little more developed than other push your luck games in that every time you flip over a card, it's typically as a person with an ability, and I really like the manipulation that the different abilities give you. So it's a bit more meaty than just like Captain Carcass is another one that we really enjoy, or Dead Man's Draw was the original. But it's lighter, that one's lighter, and it doesn't have as much meaty choices. So I really like Port Royal for those aspects of hiring people that then give you abilities, and you're trying to be careful not to reveal ships of the same color, but you can push your luck. If you can get one of each colored ship out, then you can gain more cards. But of course, it's push your luck. Yeah, it just in general, it's a fun one. It's always one where people can, relax and talk, as well as be interested, because it's, again, a good one for keeping all the players involved, because when you're done picking cards, then everybody goes around and they can buy cards from what you pulled, and you gain money when they do so. So yeah, it's a nice, good balance for a lighter, shorter game that kind of makes me think of traveling.
Neat. I haven't played Port Royal.
For those who didn't go and get the import version, it is being released soon. I have totally forgotten who. I forgot which company's bringing it to the United States, but it will be available soon in a US release edition, and hopefully they'll bring the expansion very quickly, because the expansion adds a lot of fun to it.
That's such a good game.
Yeah.
I played that game for the first time at last year's Origins.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jessica, what's on your list of games to play in the summer?
Well, I am definitely the person that hibernates during the summer. Even though I'm a California girl, I just don't like the heat. So 2 years ago, I got into the hobby, and I actually just passed my 2-year anniversary of being introduced to the hobby. But next month in July is the 2-year anniversary of when I found my board game group, my local board game group. So I started gaming with them in the summer. One of the games that we played that first summer, we played like every week, and it kind of helped us meld and get to know each other a lot, because there's some backstabbing in it and some insurrection. And for me, like I said, I like to hibernate in the summer, and the leader of our game group is actually a high school teacher. And so when he's off for the summer, he wants to game every weekend, and he wants to game all day long. And so it's the perfect time to play really long games. And so for me, in the summer, I like to spend, full days and nights gaming and playing long games. And so it's a perfect opportunity to play Battlestar Galactica and be a Cylon and be insurrecting against everybody or sussing out those Cylons, because there's like lying and deception in this game. When we found out who people were, if they were Cylons, and they were so sneaky about it, you just get so angry, but fun angry. And so we would always schedule another game for the next week. And we were playing these games even midweek of Battlestar Galactica, and they were so much fun and really helped us get to know each other, and we had so much fun. So for me, I love playing this game. It's designed by Corey K., because I don't even want to attempt to... I've heard it pronounced Kanishka. I'm sorry, Corey. But it's published by Fantasy Flight Games, designed in 2008, has a ton of expansions, and I finally got one last year. I got the Exodus expansion, which is really cool because it has the Cylon fleet portion to it, which you can kind of see ahead of time when the fleet's going to attack, and usually you can see it's just going to be a massive attack, so you got to prepare for it. But in this game, just like in the show, you're trying to get to Cobalt, but you're also trying to fight off these Cylon attacks that keep coming at you. And you just never know if somebody is a Cylon from the get-go, or gets activated halfway through the game and turns into a Cylon. So much fun. I love this game. Average game for us is about 2.5 to 3 hours, but they can go to I've had one go to 5. I haven't had them go much longer. I've never played with the full complement of 6 players. We typically play with 4, but I really want to play a game with everybody, with multiple Cylons and trying to suss people out. And for us, typically, this game, it's really hard for the humans. The Cylons typically always win. And I hate being a Cylon because I'm a terrible liar, and I just feel my skin getting hot. You know me, knowing that I'm the bad guy and people are trying to figure out who I am. But I still think it's so much fun. And for me, Battlestar Galactica BSG will always be a 5. I'm still mad at Stronghold Games' Dark Moon for trying to be Battlestar Galactica Light. No, I'll never like that game because it's Battlestar Galactica all the way.
Yeah, that's a favorite of ours, too. We actually have all of the expansions for it, and let me recommend right now...
Oh, really?
...to get yourself an organizer, a box insert organizer from Broken Token. It makes all the difference in setting up and packing away this game and storing this game. Make sure you glue it when you get it. Make sure you glue the pieces together because it doesn't stay together. But we tend to play this game... Well, we play this game a lot through the year, but we tend to play this game on New Year's Eve.
Oh.
We've done that the last couple of years, and last year we played with 8 players. Understand, this is a 3 to 6 player game.
Yeah.
But because we have all the expansions, we have so many characters from the show that we can add extra people. We just add more Cylons to the loyalty deck. So then we could have, 3 Cylons, for example. We just have so much fun with it. This last New Year's Eve, we started playing at about 10 o'clock. We figured, we'll finish up about 2. No, we finished up at 4.
Wow.
Yeah, we were all going, are the humans dead yet? And the year before that, the humans won, And we looked around, we went, who are the Cylons? Well, we had a new person playing with us who wasn't familiar with the show and didn't know what to do with the Cylon cards, and she got both of them.
Oh, wow.
She got both of them and had no idea what to do with them, and so she just played along. We told her what to do, and she did it, and she had no idea she was supposed to be sabotaging anything. So from that, we developed a house rule that if you've never played this game before, or you're not comfortable being the traitor, then, you know, when you look at your loyalty card, if it says you're a Cylon, you can toss it out and say, I don't want to be a Cylon. And we'll gather up all the loyalty cards, shuffle them up, and deal them out again until that person doesn't get a Cylon card. That has worked really well with introducing people to the game and not expecting them to be the bad guy right off the bat.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a favorite game, and we really enjoy that one. All right, so my game, I have literally played poolside. And that's why it made my list today. And it is Can't Stop. I know I told this story a couple of episodes ago. I went to a pool party at my stepsister's house, and my mom was there, and we were just sitting and talking, sitting poolside. My sister has this neat little cabana in her backyard. I looked at my mom and said, you want to play a game? Because I brought some games with me. And she's like, I don't know, because she knows I play hard, complicated games. I said, really, this is an easy game. You'll like it. She said, all right, we'll give it a try. And so I pulled out Can't Stop. And my version of the game is shaped like a stop sign. It's a push your luck game. You're rolling dice, and then you're rolling 4 dice, and you have to pair up each of the 4 dice. And you can do it in different ways, but whatever each of the pairs equals is the number that you get to claim on the board. So if you pull a 7, you get to put a piece on 7 at the bottom of the 7 track. And if you roll 2 1s, you get to put a piece at the bottom of the 2 track. And you put these white pieces out, regardless of what color you are, to determine where you're moving. Then when you decide, okay, you know what, I've gone far enough this turn, I'm going to stop, you put your colored pieces in the places where the white pieces are and pull the white pieces off and hand them to the next player. And she loved this game. We ended up playing like 7 games of this over the afternoon, and she just had a ball with it. You know, it, like I said, it literally made the list because we've played it poolside, and you don't have to worry about this game getting splashed or wet. Everything is plastic.
Yeah, it's nice.
You just shake it off and, you know, put it back and start all over again. And it doesn't take very long to play. It's maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe. It plays 2 to 4 players, and we just had a good time. You don't have to worry about anything blowing away in the breeze. You don't have to worry about anything getting wet because it just dries off. And so that's why I thought it was a good summertime vacation game.
It's one of my favorites. I love that game.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, and the last time I played, there was one guy who was so unlucky, and it was so funny that he would bust so early every time. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's one thing I should point out. If you roll the dice and you don't get any of the numbers that you've got pieces on, you lose all the progress you've made for that turn, and that ends your turn. So it was easy to explain. My mom had a great time with it. I had a great time with it. Mark played with us for a couple of games before he wandered off to go do something else. So yeah, it's a good, solid game.
I really enjoyed playing that online. I am waiting for my copy to come. Unfortunately, it's bundled up with a Kickstarter pledge that has gotten delayed, but hopefully soon, because I'm really hoping it'll be good for Will's parents, since it's 3-dimensional and they would be able to feel it and hopefully engage with it better than other games. So
that's right. Both of Will's parents are blind as well, right?
Yes, it's genetic. Unfortunately, Will got one problem from his mom, one problem from his dad. So yeah, he got the unfortunate mix of those two. But yeah, it's always great when I can introduce them to new games because they like games. It's just most of them are not visually accessible. So, but this one can be. I mean, especially with my help with reading the dice, they can see where the tracks are. And I think they'll get a kick out of the cones and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next on your list for summertime games, Sarah?
Yeah, so keeping to the sea and cool, something I wish it had been the last couple of weeks, Deep Sea Adventures. It's also a push your luck style game. Just recently got it. One of my friends, Julie, who did the art for Project Dreamscape, she went back to Japan to visit some of her family, and she stopped in and bought this game for us. Although thankfully thankfully, you can find it online to ship anywhere, not just in Japan. But it's Deep Sea Adventures, designed by Jun Sasaki and Goro Sasaki, published by Oink Games. And I gotta say, I am definitely looking into more Oink games now because they are so cute and light and portable. They're just really cute things. So this one is, everyone is a deep sea diver, except you're all poor, so you can only afford to rent one sub among all of you, and only one tank of air. So you're still trying to get as much treasure as you can, but as you go down and you're rolling dice that have the numbers 1 through 3, so you can only roll 2 through 6, and that's movement. And as you go down this path of treasure, for each chit that you pick up, it weighs you down. So at the beginning of your turn, you're using oxygen, and you also subtract from the dice the number of chits that you have, so you're weighed down. It's very, you've picked up stuff, but you don't know what they are because they're all face down tiles. So you're trying to figure out how far do you push to go down and go back up. But instead of the normal push your luck, which is against the game, you're pushing your luck against other players because you're hoping no one's going to get to stuff faster than you and back to the ship before you. Because if you run out of air, if there's no air in the tank when you start your turn, you have to drop all your stuff. It falls to the bottom of the ocean, and you're just pulled up to the sub. And I mean, you don't drown, but you've lost all your progress. And so this is more of a social experience. It's just barely a game, but it's a fun interactive activity type of thing. But yeah, the first game Will and I played, he got 0 points. You play over 3 rounds, but he just kept pushing too far, and I would just I would dart out, pick something up, and I'm good. Let's go back to the ship. So it is fun. It is light. It takes maybe 10-15 minutes to play, so it's also not anything you would take seriously, but it's a nice light little ocean theme to cool off with.
Neat. All right, Jessica, what's next on your list?
Well, like I said, I'm all about the long games during the summer, so of course I'm going to play kind of my favorite long game that I've been talking about constantly, where my State of Games cohorts keep saying I should change my Twitter handle to Fazelius instead of Feld Fangirl. So I'm looking forward to playing like back-to-back games of Terraforming Mars on gaming days, published by Stronghold Games and designed by Jason Fazelius. I just love this game, but it takes like 3 hours to play, even at 2 players. So if I want to play longer games, I need the amount of time that we have on a lazy Saturday set aside for gaming to play. So I'm going to spend probably a lot of my weekends Well, I have a gaming weekend coming up this week, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to start Terraforming Mars a little bit this weekend, because it has been way too long since I played this game, because it's been like a month. That's just sad for me. So, Terraforming Mars will definitely be hitting the table this summer, and I keep saying I'm going to keep playing it solo, which I have not played, except for that first game I played. So when I have the time, I'm going to be really busy. I'm working like a second job and everything, but I know I have to set time aside for myself to enjoy the summer, enjoy my hibernation in the air conditioning, and I'm going to do that while Terraforming Mars. So I love this card game, but also kind of spatial aspect with the tiling of Terraforming Mars. The solo is really cool. You have to seed the board a little bit, and it tells you how to do that, but then you're trying to terraform Mars before a certain time track, before a certain number of rounds, and then using the special ability, and you have to play the game differently than you do multiplayer. So it's just so intriguing, I think, and perfect for just those long days where you just want to play games and play a long one.
This is a game that I really want to get added to our collection too. I have fun every single time I play it. I don't think I've won it yet, but that doesn't surprise me.
You got to put green on the table. You got to put green on the map. You got
The one thing that kind of holds me back from it, though, is that I definitely want to get the Broken Token Organizer with it, because it comes with wooden player mats.
Those are nice.
That hold all your cubes in place and things like that. So it's kind of like I want to budget for the game, but I want to budget to get this other accessory to add to the game to make it better.
But there are other like overlays and game trays and stuff that are actually more affordable now, because more different, producers of them are making them. So mine were really expensive because I got them like right when the game came out, but I needed them because those little cubes just move so much on the player mats. But it was worth it to me to spend $50 on that. So, but I know that there are like much cheaper options that are just as useful. So You should just get it. You need it for your summer.
And it's neat because it does play solo. It does play 2 players. So it is something that Mark and I can play in the evening when it's just the 2 of us here. We don't have to have friends over. So
And it plays great up to 5,
Yeah.
too. I mean, I like it at every player count. I think probably, other than, I'll probably will like it solo best, but I really like it at 3 players.
Yep. All right. So I put a game on the list. I put it on here because I remember as a kid, my brother and I started coming home on our own from school pretty young. During the summers, we were home all summer together, and we would pull out and play chess against each other. And now chess is not the game that I have on here, but let me get to that. When I was a kid, we had a chess set that my dad had crafted in high school, and it was made out of clay. And they were huge pieces and really, really well crafted. And one set was red and the other set was blue. And we would just sit and play. Our house had a swamp cooler, and I grew up in Reading. And anybody who knows anything about Reading knows it gets up to 115, 120 in the summer. So past a certain level, you stay inside, even if you're sitting under the swamp cooler. And we would play a lot of board games. And in particular, we would play chess with each other. Now, a chess set is often pretty hard to take with you when you're going anywhere because, especially if you've got big pieces. And a chessboard. They're either little teeny tiny chessboard, little teeny tiny pieces. And not everybody enjoys chess, but the game that I put on the list is Onitama. Onitama is a 2-player game similar to chess, but with a little bit of a twist. It's got a smaller board than chess. It's got a smaller package than chess. The box is kind of like an elongated cube, and the lid wraps around the box rather than sliding over it, and it seals with a magnet. So that was kind of cool. But you have a total of 5 pieces altogether for Onitama. There's the master and then 4 apprentices, and each side has those 5 pieces. The master's in the middle, and the master has his own chair. And movement in this is dictated by a set of 5 cards. You get 2, your opponent gets 2, and there's 1 in the middle. And the cards say how you can move, and you can choose between the 2 cards in front of you how you're going to move. But once you've used that movement, you take that card, you put it in the middle, and you take the card from the middle. So you're constantly rotating your ability to move. The object of the game is to get either to capture the other opponent's master or get your master to the other master's chair. If you land on the same square as your opponent's piece, you capture that piece and it's out of the game. It takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play depending on how strategic and intense you're trying to be with it. But it's one of those games that's really easy to explain and really easy to learn to play, but it feels like, yeah, I'm not going to master this anytime soon. And they've come out with, I think, 2 expansions for it. One adds more movement cards to it. I know that. The other one looks like it might even be a sequel rather than an expansion. I'm not sure. But one of the other neat things about this is that the pieces are hard plastic. They're solid hard plastic. And the board is a neoprene mat that rolls up and sticks in the box. So it's a neat little package that I've literally put it in my purse. I have a big purse. But I put it in my purse, and we've played it at restaurants. We go while we're waiting for our dinner to come or whatever, we put it out and we play a game, and by the time dinner comes, we're done with at least one game. And I've shown other people how to play this game and who aren't gamers, and they've gotten it pretty quickly, especially when you use the chess analogy to it. It's similar to chess. If you've played chess, you'll pick this up pretty quickly. You don't have to even be a master at chess. You just have to understand the concepts involved. This is Onitama. It was designed by Shinpei Sato and is published by Arcane Wonders as part of the Dice Tower Essential line. And it was published in 2014, and I give this game a 5. I love this game. It will be in my collection for quite some time. So, like I said, it's easy to pull out, just going out to dinner and sitting and playing a game. So anyway, anybody else want to make any other comments on summertime?
Yeah.
I'm ready for the fall.
It's definitely too hot. Yeah.
It's too hot already.
It's been really hot here in Sacramento. It's been 108, 109 Fahrenheit. So
yeah.
Yeah, that gets a little wearing.
Yeah, and in Virginia, it's like in the 90s, but the real feel is like 105, 110 because of the stinking humidity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I did one year my family did a trip from Redding, California to Washington, D.C.
Oh, my.
We did a road trip. And yeah, we went down California and then across the South. And I remember when we got back east, Maryland was okay. We were camping in Maryland. And then we would get in the car and we'd go into Washington, D.C. to do the tourist bit there. And I remember getting out of the car and looking at my mom going, Mom, what's wrong with the air? Because I had never experienced humidity before. Redding is a very dry heat most of the time. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, hitting the water wall that the humidity is back east.
When I moved from California, my dad, sister, and I drove down California all the way across the southern states and first stopped in Florida. My cousin was getting married, and then I drove from there up to Virginia to my dorm room for grad school. But when I got out of the car, I almost suffocated. I had never experienced anything like that. It was horrible. And it sounded like a gun war was going on because I had never experienced insane thunderstorms during the summer before. So it was crazy thunderstorms, and I was like breathing water. It was horrible.
Yeah, but people also, who grew up in that, come out here and they're like, oh my God, it's so dry.
Yeah. That's what they say about Arizona, right?
Yeah. In fact, if you go to gift shops in Arizona, you find these they're like snow globes, but there's no water in them.
Yeah.
And it's like sand inside of them. Mm-hmm. And it's got a little skeleton leaning against a cactus. And the caption on it is, yeah, but it's a dry heat.
That's cute.
Anyway. All right, everybody. Enjoy your summer.
Marie Curie, she's the toughest scientist I wanna be. Winning those Nobels left and right. Study pitch blend in October night. Got isotopes in her pocket. Radiation.
For the interview today, I am joined by Pam Metivier. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's great.
And Greg Helmstetter. We are here to talk about their project called STEAM Team 5, The Beginning. Pam, can you tell us about your project?
Absolutely. So the project Greg and I are working on, STEAM Team 5, The Beginning, is a children's book designed to get girls excited about STEM and STEAM. So we've launched a Kickstarter to fund the illustration and printing of the book, which we just finished writing about a month ago.
How exciting. Can you explain what STEM and STEAM are?
Absolutely. So STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And STEAM is Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. We use STEAM because we believe that art plays a significant role in all other aspects of STEM. Creativity and design are critically important skills to have. And so that's why our team is called STEAM Team 5 instead of STEM Team 5. But our goal is to get girls excited about science, technology, engineering, and math.
Okay, that is important. I've read lots of articles and things online about how women and girls tend to drop out of those classes because they're not encouraged like boys are. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. In fact, you start to see a drop-off in interest as soon as the 6th or 7th grade in science and math for girls. I think part of it is that they feel like they need to make a choice between social acceptance and their innate interests. And so part of our mission, and this is why this is an adventure book, and these girls are fun-loving, adventurous, curious girls. And our goal here is to kind of break the stereotypes of what it means to be a girl who's into science, technology, engineering, math, and to make them feel like it's okay to have those interests. And not only is it okay, but it's super important for them to have those interests so that they can find careers later on in life to, support themselves. So we were kind of surprised when we were talking to people when we found that, initially I had thought that the age of drop-off was in high school, as I recall it being. But now we're learning that it happens as early as middle school. And so we're hoping to kind of bring attention before they even get to that age. So start talking to them when they're very small about these things and getting them excited about it so that they have a lifelong interest.
Fantastic. Now, whose idea was this?
I guess I'm the guilty person here. So when my daughter was born about 7 years ago, my wife and I we had decided from before she was born that we were going to homeschool so that we could travel a lot. And because of that, we were already thinking about how we were going to educate her. And there was a lot of stuff going on at the time, people talking about how software was eating the world and AI was going to take jobs, and that the best way to be prepared and secure in that future would be to have skills in STEM fields. And so we realized that that would be important in her education. But then, like Pam mentioned, there are these cultural and sort of structural biases against women in the STEM fields, and they're so underrepresented that we were concerned there weren't a lot of role models. And this was confirmed when I looked for toys and games and books and TV shows and things that represented girls in these roles. There just wasn't a lot there. In fact, every time there was, it's like they went out of their way to make these characters nerdy and kind of socially awkward, and, you know, they looked funny and stuff like that. And it's almost like the message was that this is not for normal, everyday people. This isn't what everyone should be studying. And that bothered us. And so I started making up my own stories to tell my daughter, and I would do it when we would play with her Barbie dolls, and I would just kind of sneak in all of these sort of values and lessons and behaviors that, look, girls do things like science, and they do things like engineering. They build stuff. They design things. They start companies. And she loved these stories so much. It was really cute. At the end of each one, she would always say, again, again. And I would repeat the stories until she, would go to sleep or whatever. And that was the origin of the stories originally. We got parents, when we would mention it, just in casual conversation, like you do with other parents, especially homeschooling parents who are always kind of trading tips and things. People wanted to know if they could get copies of these stories themselves. And when I mentioned this to Pam, she was like, there may be something here that we should take a look at in terms of making it available to a broader audience.
Interesting. I'm so glad you've decided to do this, because I think it is very important. I mean, I hear news stories about how a 7-year-old girl is calling out Lego for not having any scientists in one of their kits, or, people just being surprised when a girl wins a science competition or something like that.
I'm really optimistic about this, because it wasn't that long ago that the STEM fields were not really socially cool for anybody, boys or girls. If you think back, when I was in grade school, the kids who were good at that were kind of ostracized. And now, at least my sense, just looking at pop culture, probably because of the dot-com boom and all of the college-age billionaires that came out of that, they became sort of cultural superstars. Now it's geek chic, right? It's kind of cool like that. I think it's just a propagation wave that probably hit the boys first and is making its way to girls as well. And so it may just be that it takes time, and, we push to make it happen faster, but that maybe it's inevitable. I don't know.
So you've included arts in the name of your book with STEAM instead of STEM. How is it important to have art included with the STEM courses as well?
There's currently a debate among STEM education advocates about whether or not the arts should be included. And we're very respectful of that debate and understand there's pros and cons. The arguments against having arts included in STEM education really boils down to things like funding at the school level. Do we take this money out of this kind of lab equipment and have a studio and art teachers? And we completely respect and understand that those are some real trade-offs that people have to make. And our overarching view is we really use, Pam and I use the terms interchangeably, or maybe STEM more often because it's more well-known. But the reality is that it's good instructors can teach creative processes and design in those courses. So we kind of leave it up to educators to figure out what makes sense in their own reality and their own context. That said, we've decided to go with STEAM because we wanted to emphasize the important role of art and design and creativity in the entire process of innovation. And in particular, the importance of really thinking outside the box and making connections laterally and tapping into sometimes more intuitive cognitive processes, that are more associated with the arts. And really, when you train people formally to do those, they become more aware of their own creative processes. And that really makes people just better at thinking and problem solving in any realm, whether it's science or technology or even something like business or law or accounting. So just creativity in general is essential to innovation. And I don't think that's controversial. So we included a character, Ariana Artist, who kind of underscores all of these elements. And she brings a certain perspective to what we think of as an ensemble approach to problem solving, that there is no leader of this group. They all operate together, and she plays a very important role. So we think we've achieved a nice balance, at least for the purposes of our stories.
Very cool. I know that in my experience in working in technology fields, that designers and artists are required in order to design human interfaces. That a lot of times when you create, when someone who's just concentrated on the technology side of things, the making it work side of things, if it were left up to the people who have the capacity to think in that way, the interface is usually very clunky. It works great once you can figure it out, but I found that when you bring in a designer, someone who's more artistic, then the interface becomes much more user-friendly. And I think it's important to include the art so that people remember that, people have to work with this, and we need to think in that way, and we need to make it look appealing and easy to use and intuitive. The functionality isn't just all that's there.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I think that the question of whether or not to include the A for arts in the STEAM versus STEM debate is not at all controversial when you're talking to people who have anything to do, like with software or certainly web engineering. It's just a foregone conclusion that is part of the process. I think where it's less obvious would be if you're talking to high school science teachers trying to prepare people maybe to go into skills in biology or something like that. Do we really need to be taking money or time away from this curriculum to teach them how to paint? I understand that. So I think it's just a subtle issue, but clearly there's a role in certain contexts. That's not really debatable.
Also, too, a lot of art is moving into technology. People are drawing with computer pens on iPads. And also, too, if you think about it, every science class I've ever been in has asked me to draw something.
That's a good point.
It may be a picture of a cell or the organelles in a cell, but every science class has asked me to draw something, to turn into the instructor. I'm not artistic at all, but I know that having the art classes I had and being encouraged to do things like color and draw and things like that helped to prepare me for what the science classes required me to draw. So I would really argue for having art involved, because art is not anymore. It's not just canvases and ceramics and crafts. It's more important to being able to work in the technology. And I think it's important that anybody that's going into any type of career needs to understand the technology, and they need to be able to work with it, but they also shouldn't shut down their creative side when they're working with the technology. The technology, I think, enables creatives to express themselves in a different way than has been seen traditionally.
It's a really good point. And you mentioned like the drawing, what you see in a microscope. I had never really made that connection, but they probably did that because they couldn't just take a picture with their computer USB cable back then. But if you think about it, as an illustrator myself, I can tell you confidently that nothing focuses your observation like having to draw something. And for your listeners who are not artists or photographers or videographers or sound people or something, these people can see stuff that other people can't. And it's because they've really practiced this intense focus and concentration. It's almost like a pure form of meditation or something, only like what they're seeing. And it's a very powerful skill that I think is probably, not more people should know about that and understand that there's a lot of power in that applies to problem solving and science and so on.
Absolutely. Now, Pam, what was your part in the project?
It was really interesting because Greg and I are business partners, and we have a marketing consulting firm as well. And so we've worked together about 15 years. So we have a method for working together that works really well. And that is Greg shared the background stories. He kind of developed the characters' backgrounds and shared them with me. And then he had some ideas about what kind of experiences the characters should have. And so I took those outlines and fleshed out a lot of the story. My role really was to help give the girls a voice, and that was super fun for me. I really enjoyed it. It was really important for us that the girls each had their own unique personalities. So that I would say that was the part that I contributed to the most, was kind of fleshing out those details and writing many of the stories. And then after we finished the book, my background, Greg and I are both are in STEM fields, but my background is in marketing strategy and online marketing. So my role was to get the message out about the book to the right audience in order to create demand for it. Those two areas have been my primary focus.
Well, I'd say you've done a good job because I found you through a promoted ad on Twitter.
Thank you. You know, my favorite thing is to hear that when people say, I have no idea where I heard about you. I think from a friend, but I know that they actually came in through one of my incredibly targeted ads. But it was fascinating, actually, that whole, I could talk for days about the audience and what I learned about who is most interested in this type of book. We have a massive following of people who don't have children. They are enthusiastic about the mission. And I understand that because, you know, my background's technology marketing. I have experienced all of this stereotypes and challenges associated with building a STEM-related career for the last 25 years. So I know that there's an audience like me out there that would like to see girls experience fewer obstacles in their career growth. That is our fundamental underlying goal of this book. And so we're hoping it's a success so that we can write more, because we know that these characters need to grow with girls, not just be a one-off. We need to be persistent. You know, they need this, they hear this message when they're toddlers, when they're in primary school, middle school, high school, and college. Throughout their entire life, they need to hear this message. We're pretty, as you can tell, pretty passionate about it.
Absolutely. What is the age range your book is targeted to?
Well, initially we did K through 3 because we thought parents would want to read it with their kids in kindergarten, you know, before the school starts full time. But what we learned, we tested the book with parents and children, and we had people in our audience from kindergarten all the way up to age 14 who absolutely loved the book. The older girls we were a bit surprised about because we hadn't intended for the age range to scale so dramatically, but they loved the adventure story behind it. You know, I had my niece who's 13 was reading it chapter by chapter, and she would hound us because we were writing it chapter by chapter. Where's the next chapter? Where's the next chapter? And the really cool thing about that is she's a really smart kid, but she has a learning disability and has never been a big reader. So my sister warned me about having her test the book and said that she's not a big reader, but I'll ask her to read it. And I said, well, don't push her, but have her read the first chapter. And if she honestly likes it, I'll give her more. So that was the thing I was most happy about, was that my niece, who's not a big reader, kept reading. And this is before we put any pictures in. So to me, if that's the only win we got out of this project, I'm thrilled.
Nice.
So, turning a girl into a reader is, I'm thrilled with that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Greg, how has your daughter received the book?
She loves it. She has ideas all the time for new stories that we should be adding, and of course, she's 7 and the stories don't make any sense in terms of how it would fit into our long character arc and stuff like that. But it's cool because she's seeing firsthand that it's normal for people to create stories and to, publish books and launch Kickstarter programs and stuff like that. So there's like this meta level of awareness and education that's happening. She's kind of she's learning about web marketing and things like that. And so the layers of richness that have really she's been exposed to as a result, it's really cool and kind of an unintended benefit. And I would really encourage parents out there, whether they're homeschooling or not, it's like, maybe try some kind of project. It doesn't have to be a business or a Kickstarter, but maybe it's a blog or something like that, and really involve your children. And that's going to be every bit as important, I think, for their economic understanding of the world when they get older, as will be the stuff that they formally learn in school. It's all these kind of cultural, contextual kind of educational aspects too.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. As of this recording today, your Kickstarter has 25 days left to go, and you're not quite halfway there yet, but we will definitely get the word out about this and encourage people to go and check you out and back you. I hope that once you get this book launched and you're ready to do another one, you'll come back on and tell us some more about it.
Absolutely.
We would absolutely love to, and thank you very much for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time to chat with us.
It's my pleasure. This is Cathy. In episode number 40, we're doing something a bit different. We're having an Ask Us Anything episode, and we want questions from you. If you would like to participate and ask us any question you like, just go to ourturnpodcast.com/AMA1. That's the number 1. This is a link to the thread in our Board Game Geek Guild number 2600. Ask your questions here by July 23rd, 2017, and we will do our best to answer them in episode number 40. Please remember that we are a family-friendly show, and your questions should reflect that. Otherwise, we are open. Do you have questions about our favorite types of games or game mechanics? Are you curious about how a podcast is put together? Do you want to know if we have pets and what their names are? The questions you can ask are almost endless. We look forward to hearing from you. Again, the link to the BGG thread is ourturnpodcast.com/AMA1. We look forward to hearing from you. All right, so now we're at the point of the episode where we're winding things down and talking about things that we're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks. But first, I want to ask Sarah, how is your Oaxaca Kickstarter doing?
It is going fantastic. We funded I used to know what it was. It was like 28.
It's like a day and a half.
Yeah, it was like 28 hours or something. But yeah, it was crazy. Second day we funded, and it took at least a week for Project Dreamscape to fund. And we've already surpassed the amount we raised for Project Dreamscape. Now we're not to number of backers yet, but that's to be understood because Project Dreamscape was a smaller game, so we had more backers to get to the same amount of money. Whereas here, there's fewer people, but they're spending more per person, especially with the special edition. That they all went, like, again, within the 2-day time frame. All of the original $100 pledge levels, we only had 100 of them. They all went. We have people dropping here and there, which is fine because now people who are finding out about us now, or as of this recording, they're like, oh man, we missed out. So every now and then when we see one has dropped off, we post, hey, another pledge level opened up. If you want it, grab it. But we were able to do more pledges for just the special edition box, but not the handicraft, because those were having sourced by a guy who goes to Oaxaca and gets handicrafts and other crafts from Oaxaca, and he could only promise 400, which is a freaking lot of little figures. So we're not going to overburden him and try to get him to get us more, but we can do the box. So for $80, we still have a lot of pledge levels for the game playmat and the special edition box for $80. So yeah, we are currently at 26,640 with 534 backers, but we've reached a lot of stretch goals. Linen finish for all the mats and cards. We're having special solo cards and player mat for playing solo. Oh, and the cool thing is the solo cards can be used to play a non-aggressive Care Bear way for multiplayer. For those who don't want the attacky cards in the wood carving deck, all the players get their own colored dice, and we've got a little small expansion deck called Taste of Oaxaca, which will be food themed, and it uses the wild die. And we're really, really close at 27,000. We're going to have new art for the tourist cards, and we still have more stretch goals coming up. The last 48 hours are always the biggest ride. I mean, for Project Dreamscape, I think we gained 250 backers just in the last 48 hours. So we still have quite a bit to go.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's awesome. All righty. So what are we looking forward to in the next couple of weeks, Jessica?
Well, I have a game day. I'm forced to play games this weekend, so that's good because because I, like I mentioned, I've not been playing very much. But I was able to book a conference room at my local library for every first Saturday for the rest of the year.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And yes, and I'm the only one that actually lives in my town of Colonial Heights, so I have to be there to grab the key and lock up because the library closes at 4 on Saturdays, but I booked it till 6, so we're there from like 1 till 6. So, and then we actually stay there as late as we want. So I am forced to play games this weekend.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm so busy nowadays, but I'm hoping that I can finally read my rules to Yokohama and take it and actually get my copy played. If nothing else, I'm sure I'll get a game of Terraforming Mars in and I'll still be happy.
There you go.
So, and then I actually just met a young gentleman and he works at this bookstore. It's a secondhand I'd never heard of and would never think it's a bookstore because it's called McKay Brothers. And what does McKay Brothers sound like to you?
Furniture.
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like a furniture store, but it's a secondhand bookstore. But they also sell like old comics.
Oh, cool.
And they also sell board games, and they're really big into tabletop RPGs. And so they're open every day till 8, but on Tuesdays they're open from like 8:30 until 11, hosting a tabletop RPG night, so Dungeons and Dragons and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so in a minute I was like, well, I don't do RPGs, but there's a big Richmond board game meetup group, and I'm sure they would love to know that there's another venue that would be open to hosting their room for like another night for like other regular tabletop board games. So I want to go check it out, trade in some books that I have to get some new ones. And I've always wondered about possibly getting into reading comics a little bit, but it's like so scary. There's so much out there. So I at least kind of look through what they have and then just check out what games they have and then just kind of check out the scene in the area. So I'm hoping that I can get a chance to do that sometime this weekend. So that's all I've got planned. Other than that, I'm working a second job now, so I'm just busy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah?
Oaxaca's coming to an end. It's exciting and kind of stressful time, but it's all good. And I totally thought I would have gotten the last play of Dresden Files in by now, but it's been a busy month. The Kickstarter, the heat wave, I just haven't had any energy, but I need one more play of Dresden Files and I'll be done with my 10 by 10 challenge and then we can totally focus on our unplayed games. So I'm really hoping we can get it done before no, it's not going to happen before the end of the month, but hopefully early July once we're past the Kickstarter and everything. And other than that, like I said, more unplayed games, and then I've got prototypes. I got to keep moving on to the next game that we're working on. So getting Reaching Haven's Vault finalized, or the next version finalized, so we can actually continue play testing it.
Neat. I too am looking forward to a game day. We have a friendly local game store here that has a big warehouse area behind their store, and that's where they have gameplay area all set up. First of the month is always board game day, and I'm hoping that it's not going to be super hot because they don't air condition back there.
No, they don't.
They have fans set up back there, big fans set up back there to kind of help out, but that is problematic when you're playing a board game too.
Yeah.
And if it looks like it's just going to be too hot, we might just, see if we can go over to some friend's house or have some friends come over to our house. Just depends. But usually on the first weekend of the month, I'm babysitting my niece, Walker Lynn, while her mother goes and does her 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year type thing for the National Guard. But for July, it got moved to later in the month. So I'm going to take advantage and go play. I'm also trying to arrange dates for my Firefly crew to get back together for a Firefly RPG. It's kind of tough to figure out people's schedules. We've got a couple of people on vacation. We've got a couple of people whose jobs have changed their days off. So it's tricky getting people back together, but I'd really like to.
Yeah, that's the bane of all role-playing groups and why we haven't God, I think we did manage to play once a couple of months ago, and that went relatively well, but with some feedback to the GM, we've now shifted tracks, and so he's trying to rework some of the aspects. Some people aren't quite happy with where the story is going, which, is fine. That's the thing about role-playing games is you can tweak them, but his job's gotten worse in terms of, being very stressful and taking up all his time because he's pretty much on call all the time. So, yeah. So the last time we got together, it was board games, which, don't get me wrong, I love, but yeah, it is so hard to get the role-playing games to the table.
Yeah, it is. I'm really hoping I can get them back together. I don't think we've played since, January. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I miss it. So,
yeah.
Where can people find you folks online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at EurogamerGirl, and I'm on Board Game Geek, username Silva Shadow, SilvaShado. And otherwise, I run the Our Turn Podcast Facebook page, so if you interact there, you'll most likely get me, although Cathy's been very helpful and pitches in when I'm unable to, so that's me.
You do a great job with the Facebook page.
Thank you.
And Jessica?
Yeah, you can always find me on Twitter at FelledFangirl. I'm also on BGG as Forensic Gamer, but I'm not super active on BGG. That interface is just crazy. I'm still having a hard time navigating it. And always find me on Twitter. I have not been as active lately, so come talk to me and we can talk.
And I run the at Our Turn podcast account on Twitter. I have a lot of fun doing that. And I also manage the BoardGameGeek.com Guild number 2600. On Facebook, Twitter, and the Guild, we post questions every day, almost every day.
Every weekday.
Yeah, every weekday. Sarah has it down to a science on Facebook, but I'm a little hit and miss on Board Game Geek. So I'm trying to remember to do that every day. But I love the responses I get on the Guild. So if you haven't checked out our Guild yet, please stop in and take a look and chime in on something. We are also doing an Ask Us Anything episode for episode number 40. This is episode number 36. So we need your responses by July 23rd. You can literally ask us anything. And if you want to target it to anybody in particular, just put that in your question. We've had a couple of people say, this is for your contributors. And we've had other people say, this is for everybody. I'm keeping track of the questions and put them into a list so we can meld, the ones that are similar together and have it make sense. So anyway, we have a short link for that, and that's ourturnpodcast.com/AMA1. So you can go to that, and it'll take you right to the Board Game Geek thread. So until next time, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on June 26, 2017, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford, Sarah Reed, and Jessica Wade, with assistance from Frank Vicari, Greg Helmstetter, Pam Metivier, and Mark Ford. Next time, we will discuss card drafting games. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 36. You can find a list of the games along with the links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com and an affiliate link to buy the games, which also helps to support the show. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Please check out our show notes to learn more about the composers featured in this episode. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows on the network, like the Party Game Cast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, or the Geek All-Stars by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.